Okay guys, I'm out here paddling in Maui and filled with passion for an idea that I was discussing with our team the other day, our creating team, that I really want to share more widely because it's at the heart of the creating perspective. And that is being a champion. I want to just espouse for a minute on what I mean by that. So for those who are close to our work, you know we use the word champion in the sense of like a king or queen's champion, right? Like being a warrior for somebody, a gladiator for somebody, being willing to die in service of the right and the truth of another person. And that is definitely what we mean. But we also mean it in the more kind of common sense of a champion, meaning number one, the best, the winner, the ultimate. And so we use the phrase being a champion as intentionally for its dual meaning. And I like the challenge that this presents to people because overcoming the challenge that it presents, this what looks like a duality, presents the possibility for a person to experience integration and paradox, which is really at the heart of the development of mind that occurs in the creating perspective. So it's a great context for your evolution, the understanding of this, but the distinction itself is also powerful. So when people think about a lot of people that we work with, right? Like people who care about other people, who have a loving heart, who don't want to tread on others, who don't want to take from others, who don't want to live in a world where in order for me to have, you can't have. The idea of being the best, being number one, can not only be scary because of their own personal fears, but can also grind against their values, right? Because inside of a context of a zero-sum game, being the best means that others are less than you. And so I'm a stand for any resistance you have in that context to being honored. Like that's your heart, it's wisdom. Saying don't be the best if being the best means that others have to have less than. If somebody has to suffer the consequence of second place, third place, last place, then don't think about it that way. Don't aim for being the best in that context. Yes, I agree. But when we're talking about being the best in the sense of being number one, being the champion, and being a champion for others, what we're seeing and experiencing in that moment for each of ourselves who are being that way is that being a champion, being number one, being the best at something inside of a positive sum game in a world where more for me is more for you, then being the best is actually a contribution, and not just a contribution, quite possibly the highest contribution in the context of growth and creation and possibility. My being the best is a high contribution to you because it creates the possibility for you to be something greater. And so if you're not living in a world that's zero sum, if you're not living in a world where if I win, you lose, then being the best is a contribution. It's a gift. And if it's a gift and a contribution to be the best, then that's you being a champion for another person. That's you championing somebody. For me to do my best to be the best in your presence is for you. When I'm not living in that reality where more for me is less for you. When I'm living in the reality where more for me is more for you. In an abundant world, in a world that's infinite and constantly expanding, in a universe that's constantly expanding. Me being the best is more for you, creates more for you. I talk about being the Roger Bannister of whatever it is that you're doing. Roger Bannister is the first person to break the 4-minute mile, and the moment he did, others began to do it too. And that lives in every domain, whether it's being the best dad. It's not because I'm better than you, and if you hear it that way, that's the context you're living in, and the context creates the possibility for your feeling right or wrong about something. So your heart is correct, but your heart is responding to a context that's less than a greater possibility, let's say. There's a possibility where your heart could feel in that same act, that same endeavor, could feel inspired, right, just, and actually it could feel as an expression of contribution. It could feel like it's giving. When your world changes, where you don't see a world that me being the best is less for you. And so I am a champion for you being a champion. And I mean, I am a champion for you being the absolute best at what you do. And you can think about that as I want to be better than the next guy. Why is that? Because when I'm better than you, I grow you. Even the idea of beating somebody in a race. I want to beat you in a race. Why would you do that? Because it's for you. And I know this in fitness and competitive fitness. Like if I am trying my hardest to beat my friends, I grow them. When it's received as contribution. And when is it received as contribution? When it's expressed as contribution. And when is it expressed as contribution? When you are not bullshitting yourself and trying to be the best because you're afraid that you're not, but actually committed to being the best because you are connected to the contribution that has not only to yourself and your growth, but to everyone around you. And at the end of the day, who gets to decide whether or not it's coming from fear or love? You do. There's no external judge. You get to decide because you're the one that's got the best possibility of even knowing that. You can feel it. Your authenticity with your own heart and where you're coming from and what your intentions are, that counts. That counts more than anything. And so I'm a champion for you being a champion. I'm a champion for you being the absolute best at whatever it is that you do. I'm a champion for you beating everybody around you for them. And I'm a champion for you that also being a contribution, for you being a champion for others through being a champion of whatever it is that you do. I love you. Be a champion. I'll talk to you soon.